Welcome to Bong Toid Trong Dem *, the channel where chilling tales are told in the most realistic, haunting, and spine-tingling voice. Tonight, let's listen to the story called **, The Possessed Corpse, **. The tale of a man who died, and then came back to life. But what came back? Was it still human? The story begins. That evening, in Bui Zay village by the New River, the sky suddenly turned gloomy. Cold wind blew in from the dike, carrying a strange chill. Inside a small old roofed house, the sound of hammering rang out. Hung, a blacksmith strong as an ox, worked bare-chested, swinging his hammer in rhythm. The red glow from the furnace reflected off his sun-burnt face, blazing like fire. The steady hammering slowed. Hung panted heavily and put down the hammer. "Strange, I feel so hot inside." From the kitchen, his wife Wa rushed out, alarmed. "Oh my God, what's wrong with you? Your face is red as coal." "I don't know, my head is spinning, like something's pressing on my chest." Before he could finish, he collapsed to the ground. The heavy hammer hit the floor with a dry clank. Smoke rose thick from the furnace, wrapping around him, filling the room with the sharp scent of burning charcoal. That night, cries filled Hung's house. Old Healer too checked his pulse and shook his head. "There's no saving him, he's gone." The house fell silent. Outside, the wind howled through the gourd trellis, cold as ice. Lan, his 12-year-old daughter, clutched her mother's sleeve, trembling. "Mom, is Daddy still breathing?" No one answered. Only her mother's sobs broke the stillness. "Your father has gone to the ancestors." 2 days later, they prepared the funeral. Incense smoke thickened the small house. The coffin lay in the center of the main room, 2 oil lamps flickering faintly. Relatives sat nearby, sipping tea and whispering. They say when a body stays warm too long, it's a bad omen. Yeah, his body's still warm since morning. Strange. Maybe his spirit can't leave, still worried for his wife and child. The men exchanged uneasy glances. Lan sat in a corner, staring at the coffin. Her father's face looked peaceful, as if sleeping, only stiff, lips pale. Something inside her felt unsettled, uneasy. Night fell. Mist spread thick across the yard like smoke. Dogs howled through the village, their cries long and mournful. Inside, the oil lamp flickered, then went out. A cold wind slipped through the cracks, lifting the burial cloth. From inside the coffin came a soft knock, like something tapping on wood. The man sitting nearest jumped, spilling his tea. What was that?" "Probably just a cat passing by," someone muttered, voice trembling. Then the sound came again, louder. Everyone froze. A baby cried outside, then suddenly stopped. The wind whistled through the roof tiles, like someone sighing above the house. Lan shivered, whispering, "Mom, Dad's calling me." "Don't say that, child, you're scaring me." Wa hugged her tight. Suddenly, bang! The coffin lid burst open. Incense smoke whirled into the air, thick with a sickly scent of burnt resin. A blackened, scarred hand reached out from inside. Everyone stood frozen. Then, Hung sat upright. Pale moonlight spilled into the room, lighting his ghostly face, eyes wide and bulging, whites glaring, lips quivering. His hoarse voice cracked the silence. "So cold." Lan screamed and fainted in her mother's arms. Outside, the moon hung behind drifting clouds. Hung's shadow staggered across the yard, stretching long like smoke. People later said that night, he walked out of the house, down the dirt road, and vanished into the fog. Only the wind remained, howling through the blacksmith's house, and the faint, sorrowful whispers of something that was no longer human. On the second night after the funeral, darkness swallowed Bui Zay village. No rain fell, yet clouds gathered thick enough to devour the moon. Mist blanketed the bamboo grove behind the houses. Villagers shut their doors early, no one dared step outside. By dusk, Whispers spread everywhere. Ong Hung came back. He walked across the yard, his eyes all white. Some believed, others laughed it off, but by nightfall, no one spoke another word. Inside the small house, Hua sat by the altar, trembling as she held a stick of incense. Lan curled under her blanket, pale as paper. Little Bai, the youngest, burned with fever, mumbling in delirium. "Dad, don't call me outside." Hua wiped the sweat from her son's forehead, heart pounding. Even the faintest rustle of wind through the roof made her jump. Dogs barked along the village road, a few scattered howls, then silence. The air grew thick and heavy, cold to the bone. Near midnight, suddenly, clang, clang, clang. The sound of hammering came from the blacksmith's forge in the yard. 3 slow, heavy strikes, exactly like her husband's rhythm. Hoa's face went pale. Lan sat up, trembling. "Mom, Dad's hammering again." "Don't say that, child, your father's gone?" But the hammering continued, echoing deep like a heartbeat. Clang, clang, clang. The wind hissed around the roof, sounding like distant cries. The oil lamp flickered, throwing distorted, ghostly shadows across the walls. Lan couldn't take it anymore. "Mom, I want to see what Dad's doing." She pulled free from her mother's grasp and flung open the door. A rush of icy wind swept in. The yard was pitch dark except for the faint moonlight breaking through clouds. The forge in the middle of the yard glowed red, though its fire had been dead for 2 days. And there, by the anvil, stood a man, hammer in hand, raising and lowering it slowly. Clang, clang, clang. Lan froze, her heart racing. "Dad, Daddy?" The figure stopped, slowly turned. A chalk-white face, eyes wide open, only the whites showing. His mouth moved, words scraping out between dry lips. "Cold, so cold?" Lan screamed and ran back into the house. Hua caught her, shaking. "What did you see, Lan?" "Dad, he's at the forge." He looked at me, but his eyes had no pupils. By dawn, word had spread through the village. Neighbors came to see. The forge was cold. The hammer lay crooked on the ground, coated in fresh mud. Footprints marked the sand, deep, heavy, leading toward the sugarcane field, and then, nothing. Old Tu frowned, taking a slow puff from his bamboo pipe. "This isn't right, the corpse is possessed." Someone whispered. "Possessed? What do you mean, elder?" "When a wandering spirit enters the body of the newly dead, it borrows the flesh to roam the earth, looking for someone to drag back to the underworld. That forge, it's a place of dark fire. Spirits cling there easily." A chill passed through the crowd. A woman covered her mouth. "God help her, what will poor Hua do now?" That afternoon, the village shaman, Old Kan, was called in. He brought a bundle of incense, a gold talisman, and a bowl of white rice. Setting them before the altar, he chanted softly in a raspy voice, "If this is Hung's spirit, bless your wife and children. But if it is something else, leave this house now." The incense hissed and sparked. One ember dropped onto the altar, the ash curled into the shape of an eye. Ken frowned, his voice trembling. "This isn't a human soul, it's something else." That night, villagers heard the hammer again, echoing from the forge, rhythmic as a funeral drum. 3 strikes. Silence. Then 3 more. The sound rolled across the fields, blending with dogs' howls and the wailing wind. Everyone pulled their blankets over their heads, too afraid to move. In the small house at the end of the village, Lan sat by the door, staring into the dark yard, whispering, "Dad, if it's really you, come hold me. I'm so cold." Outside, a black shadow stood still. No wind blew, yet the tattered shirt on its shoulders quivered faintly. Then a hoarse voice drifted through the mist. "It's cold, here too." The oil lamp sputtered out. The house sank into pitch darkness, and only the eerie sound of wind slipped through the walls, chilling every bone. All day long, the sky stayed gray. The new river drifted silently, its surface glimmering silver under a strange, icy wind. Villagers who went to the fields felt chills crawling up their backs. No one dared stay out after sunset. Hua sat numbly on the porch, eyes hollow and sunken. Since the night before, she hadn't slept a wink. Lan and Bai cried until exhaustion pulled them under. The hammering from last night still echoed in her head, each strike pounding like a heartbeat. Shaman Ken returned that afternoon, carrying a fresh bundle of incense and a small round mirror. He set the mirror on the altar and warned softly, "Tonight, no matter what you hear, do not open the door. No matter who calls, do not answer." Hoa's voice quivered. "But what if it really is my husband?" "It isn't," he said firmly. "The living don't climb out of coffins." His gaze drifted toward the yard, deep and uneasy. "Tonight, we'll face it once and for all. If it's a spirit, I'll send it back. If it's a demon, we must seal it, or the whole village will suffer." Night fell fast, like a blanket of shadow. The moon hid behind thick clouds, pale light seeped weakly through the fog. Wind howled through the trees. The forge outside stood silent, but the ground around it felt cold enough to bite. Shaman Ken spread out a worn mat, placing a bowl of rice, a knife, and a golden talisman on it. He sat cross-legged and began to chant under his breath. Lan clung to her mother, eyes wide. Little Bai huddled close, gripping the corner of his mother's sleeve. No one spoke. Only the faint chirping of crickets filled the air. Then, clack, clack. The hammering returned. Not from the forge this time, from behind the house. Hua held her breath and turned to the shaman. He kept his eyes closed, murmuring faster. Lan whispered, trembling, "Master, is that my dad?" No one answered. Then came the dragging footsteps. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Slow, heavy, as if something was being pulled across the ground. The oil lamp flickered. Its trembling light reflected off the mirror on the altar. And in the mirror, appeared the shadow of a man. He stood just beyond the back door, body swaying, hair dripping wet, as though he had just waded through the river. His eyes were pits of darkness, no whites left at all. Lan gasped and grabbed her mother. "Mom, look, Dad's in the mirror." Shaman Ken's eyes snapped open. "Don't look, close your eyes," he shouted. He snatched the talisman and flung it at the mirror. The oil lamp flared violently, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the wind's wailing filled the silence. From outside came a hoarse voice, broken by the wind. "Hua, open the door. I'm home." Hua trembled, tears spilling down her face. "No, it's not you, you're gone." "It's me. I'm really home, it's so cold." The voice cracked, dragging like something being pulled through wet soil. The shaman barked, "Don't answer, it's trying to lure you." But then the hammering began again, heavy, relentless. Clack, clack, clack. The back door rattled violently, as if struck from the outside. Lan sobbed, clutching her mother. "Mom, he's angry. He wants to come in." Shaman Ken raised the knife, chanting louder. Suddenly, the banging stopped. The world fell dead silent. He stepped forward, pressing the talisman to the door. "Leave this place. If you are a lost soul, I grant you passage. But if you are a demon, be gone from this village." A shriek tore through the night, sharp and metallic, like iron scraping stone. Wind blasted through the room, flinging the mat aside. The oil lamp reignited, flickering wildly, revealing the wooden door, now scorched with a black, hand-shaped burn mark. Outside, nothing. Only deep footprints pressed into the wet ground, leading toward the distant fields and stopping there. Shaman Ken gathered his things, his face pale. "Hung's body is no longer in the grave," he said quietly. "Something has taken it. Tomorrow night, we must find it, or it will come for more." Hua broke down, clutching her children close. Lan looked out into the darkness, her voice trembling through sobs. "Dad, please come home, don't stay out there." Outside, the wind rose again, cold, hollow, carrying faint echoes of hammer strikes from far away. 3 blows, then silence. 3 more, then silence. As if someone, or something, was still forging in the dead of night, inside a body no longer human. Wind from the river blew in cold gusts, biting through skin. The new moon peeked from behind the bamboo, a silver sliver lighting the Buizhe village cemetery in a pale wash. Tonight, Shaman Kan and 4 men from the village quietly went out to Hung's grave. No one spoke. Their footsteps scraped on dry earth, mixing with the distant howls of dogs from the village, sounding like sorrowful cries. Hua begged to go with them, but Kan stopped her. "No, the restless spirit still wanders here. A woman with a gentle heart would be easy bait, she might be taken." She could only stand on the porch, clutching her mourning cloth, eyes fixed on the flickering lamplight out in the graveyard. Kan whispered a prayer. "Hung, if any human conscience remains, let me help you. If you have become a demon, stop troubling the villagers." Then he motioned to the 4 men to begin digging. The shovels struck the dry earth with harsh clacks, mingling with the whistling wind. They shuddered but kept digging. In less than half an hour the coffin lid appeared. Kan held up a lantern, its dull yellow light fell over the cracked wooden plank. He breathed in, voice hoarse. "Open it." The strongest man bent down and pried the lid. A sharp snap rang out. Then the group froze. The coffin was empty. No body. Only a few smeared patches of mud and a clear handprint on the inside of the lid, blackened fingers, clawed as if someone had tried to claw their way out. The youngest man trembled and asked, "Master, where is Hung's body?" Kan examined it closely, eyes strained. It wasn't the diggers. Something else dragged it out. "The body's been taken." Silence fell. The wind rose, whipping dust into the air and making the lanterns flicker. Suddenly, a hammering sound came from afar. Clack, clack, clack. The sound echoed from Hung's forge, the place that should have been abandoned. The man holding the lamp swallowed. Maybe he's back at the forge. Hammering? Kan's voice was grave. "It isn't Hung, it's it." They turned to look toward the village. Through the misty night they could see a red glow in the forge yard, as if embers had been stoked. Thin smoke spiraled up, and the steady, heavy rhythm of hammer strikes beat out into the darkness. One man shivered, whispering, "Could it be, the possession is real, Master?" Kan clutched his talisman tight. "Say no more, cover the grave and follow me." By the time they reached the village edge, the forge flames were bright. Hung's house stood with its door ajar. Wind sighed through the gap like a moan. Kan moved slowly, mirror in hand. In the reflection, a figure appeared. Thin, grayish skin, eyes completely white, still holding the blacksmith's hammer, striking the anvil in measured beats. Each time the hammer struck, sparks flew, illuminating a face that was half man, half corpse. Lan sat inside, trembling as she heard the hammer. "Mom, he's forging again." Hua hugged her child, tears pouring. "No, that's not your father anymore, my child." Outside, Kan held up the mirror, pressed a talisman to it, and shouted, "The dead of the living is not finished. The restless soul hasn't gone. Why do you return?" The figure halted. Slowly it lifted its head. Its mouth opened, a hoarse voice, as if from under the earth, rasped, "Not me?" Its face convulsed. The skin on its neck trembled as if something moved beneath. Then black smoke poured from its mouth, rising like poisonous mist, merging into the night with a chilling laugh. "Ha, ha, this body is mine?" The forge flare surged, roaring into a fierce blaze. Kan chanted, hurled his talisman into the fire. The flames turned blue and billowed choking smoke, then the forge exploded. A blood-curdling scream split the air and was swallowed by the wind. When the smoke cleared, only a hammer lay among the ashes, cold to the touch. Hung's corpse had vanished. Ken panted, cold sweat streaming down his face. The demon is not gone. It abandoned the body to find another vessel. We must set up a ritual at once, or the whole village of Buizhe will be doomed. After the forge explosion, the people of Buizhe were terrified. The next day, no one dared go near Hung's house. The thatched roof was scorched, the walls blackened, and the smell, like burnt flesh, still lingered in the yard. Hua took her 2 children to stay temporarily at Uncle Tu's house at the edge of the village. But that night, little Bai suddenly developed a fever. His body burning hot, he mumbled in delirium, Dad's calling me back to forge, the hammer's still hot." Hua panicked, holding her child tightly, tears streaming down her face. "No, your father's gone. Don't listen to that voice." Lan trembled, clutching her mother's hand. "Mom, Dad's calling from outside the door." Hua turned, the door was ajar, and she could clearly see a faint shadow beyond it. Then came a soft clack, the sound of a hammer gently striking metal. She screamed, slammed the door shut, and hugged her children close. At dawn, Shaman Ken arrived. He laid a hand on Bai's forehead and frowned. The yin energy has clung to him. The demon is seeking a vessel, it hasn't left yet. He instructed the villagers to gather what remained of the forge. When they returned, they spread out the items on an old mat, a few twisted iron scraps, some nails, and a scorched black hammer, the one Hung had used all his life. Ken touched the hammer's handle and instantly pulled his hand back. His face went pale. "It's inside this." Everyone froze, afraid to breathe. He covered it with a red cloth and murmured, "Hung, if your spirit still lingers, rest now. Don't let the demon use your hands to harm others." Suddenly, the hammer trembled beneath the cloth. At first just lightly, then stronger. Metal clanged against the mat, cling, cling, like someone was striking it from within. A man shouted, "Master, it's alive." Ken raised a talisman and slammed it onto the cloth, chanting loudly. White smoke hissed out, reeking of burnt iron. But just as he finished the spell, the hammer shot straight into the air and crashed to the ground with a asterisk clang. The talisman burned to ash. The men stumbled backward, pale with terror. Ken's voice turned grave. "It's no longer Hung's soul. It's a demon wearing metal, feeding off the forge's fire to live." He turned to the villagers. "Before Hung died, did he forge anything unusual?" Uncle Tu thought for a moment. "Yes, he made a big iron lock for old Mr. Ba, said it was to seal his wine cellar. But that lock was buried with Mr. Ba's son who died last week." The air grew cold. Ken narrowed his eyes and muttered, "A lock forged by a demon, buried with the dead. If that's true, it's trying to open the gate to the underworld." Night fell. Ken took a mirror and incense, and with 3 men, went to the Ba family grave. There, the wind never stopped, bending the grass flat, the gray soil swirling. On the grave lay a large iron lock, cold under the moonlight. He lifted his lantern, peering closer. The lock was bleeding. A bright red drop trickled down onto the dirt, releasing a thin wisp of smoke. One of the men stammered, voice shaking, Master, it's bleeding." Ken flung a handful of salt and began chanting, but the lock rattled violently. The metal rings quivered, then suddenly snapped open. The earth beneath the grave split wide. From the crack, a gray, trembling hand emerged. A rasping breath followed. "Cold, so cold?" The villagers screamed and ran. Only Ken remained, pressing a talisman to the ground. The oil lamp in his hand went out instantly. Darkness swallowed the cemetery. Only the sound of shifting earth, nails scraping against stone, and a distant, echoing laugh filled the air. "Ha, ha, the gate is open. I will return, one by one." When the moonlight broke through again, the lock was gone. Only a deep pit remained, reeking of blood and rot. Ken looked up at the sky, whispering, "The demon has opened its path. This village will never know peace again. Since the iron lock vanished, the village of Buizhe hadn't had a single peaceful night. Some swore they heard hammering at midnight. Others claimed to see Hung's figure standing out in the fields, his eyes white as bone, staring back toward the village. Dogs howled without pause, and even the roosters no longer crowed. Everyone shut their doors early, burning incense and praying for safety. But peace never came. One morning, old Mrs. Tai, who lived near the village well, discovered her youngest son missing. The boy was only 8. He had played outside the night before, but by dawn, he was gone. They searched everywhere, until someone looked down into the well, and saw a shadowy figure beneath the water, before it disappeared. Wat trembled when she heard. Lan sat on the porch, clutching her torn doll, staring at the old well behind their house. Since Shaman Ken had left, no one dared go near it. The well was deep and long dry, filled only with dead leaves and dust. Lan stared for a while, then froze. There was someone down there, looking up. She rubbed her eyes. Yes, a pale face, long hair hanging down, eyes staring from the darkness at the bottom of the well. She gasped. "Mom, there's someone in the well." Wa rushed out, leaned over, and looked down. Nothing, just her own reflection rippling on the murky surface. "You're imagining things, dear, come inside." But as they turned away, a sigh floated up from the well. "Lan, don't go?" Both froze. Wa spun back, the well was empty. Wind rose suddenly, carrying the damp, foul smell of earth. That night, Lan couldn't sleep. The wind hissed through the thatched roof, whispering like someone calling from outside. She curled under her blanket, eyes fixed on the well through the window slit. Then, faintly, from the wind itself came a broken voice. "Lan, come down here, your father's waiting." Lan sat up, heart pounding. "Dad, you're back?" No reply. Only the soft drip of water from the well, plop, plop, plop. She grabbed a lantern and crept outside. Its dim yellow glow flickered over the moss-covered rim of the well. Mist swirled around her feet. Lan peered down. At the bottom, a shadow moved. A man was looking up, hammer in hand, motioning her closer. "Dad, Daddy?" The voice rose from below, hoarse and cold. "Come down, it's cold down here." Lan leaned forward, but a hand yanked her back. It was Wa. Her face was ashen. "No, that's not your father. Get inside, now." As she dragged Lan away, laughter burst from the well, long, echoing, and chilling. "Ha, ha, ha, my child, she saw me." A freezing wind swept through the yard. The lantern went out. From deep below came the sound of weeping, low, endless, echoing all night long. At dawn, the villagers gathered. When they looked into the well, they fell silent. On the stone rim were muddy handprints, still wet. And worse, at the bottom gleamed the iron lock, the size of a wrist, trembling faintly. Shaman Ken arrived, stared down for a long time. Inside, the lock has found its resting place. It's no longer a possessed corpse, but a well demon. It's using this well as a gate between the worlds of the living and the dead. Terrified, Wa clasped her hands together. "Please, Master, save my child." Last night it almost lured her down. Ken nodded, eyes dark with worry. "Tonight we'll seal the well. But remember, no matter what voice you hear, do not answer." Night fell. The village was deathly still. The moon hid behind clouds. Only the faint glow of an oil lamp flickered by the well. Ken set up an altar, stuck incense, and drew a circle of rice ash around the rim. The wind roared. From the well came sobs, sometimes near, sometimes far. Then suddenly, hammering echoed from below. Clack, clack, clack. Lan covered her ears, trembling. "Mom, he's hammering again." Wa held her close, tears falling. "No, that's not your father." Ken threw a handful of salt into the well and shouted, "Return the soul you've taken. Go back to where you belong. The well shook violently. Wind spiraled upward. From the depths, black smoke erupted, twisting into the shape of a man, eyes glowing white. Its voice rasped. No one can save her. I've already chosen. Ken lifted his mirror, chanting. A beam of light flashed across the demon's face. It shrieked, a high, piercing sound, before dissolving into smoke. The iron lock flew out of the well, crashing onto the ground with a asterisk clang. Ken quickly grabbed it and wrapped it in red cloth. It's done, but not over. There's one more place it wants to open. The villagers breathed in relief, though fear still gripped their hearts. That night, the well lay silent. But when morning came, they found Mrs. Tai, the mother of the missing boy, dead by the riverbank. Eyes wide open, clutching a broken piece of iron that looked exactly like the handle of Hung's hammer. After the well sealing ritual, everyone thought peace had finally returned. But on the third night, the Bui River began to rise, strangely and silently. The water turned murky, as though the mud at the bottom had been stirred. Villagers saw fish floating dead by the dozens, bellies swollen, eyes rolled white. And most terrifying of all, Mrs. Tai's corpse drifted upstream. No one could explain it. The dead should always flow with the current, not against it, yet her body was moving toward the old river dock. Beside the long-abandoned shrine, Shaman Kan and several strong men rowed a boat out to midstream. The water was icy cold, the stench of decay thick in the air. The new moon had risen, scattering a trembling silver trail across the river's surface. "Master, look there." One man pointed. Under the pale moonlight, Mrs. Tai's body floated by, hair spread out, eyes wide open. But just as Ken reached to pull her in, another hand shot up from beneath the water and clamped tightly around his wrist. He gasped, chanting frantically, shaking free as water splashed everywhere. From beneath the river, dozens of pale hands began to rise, as if the entire riverbed were full of corpses trying to climb out. The villagers screamed, rowing for their lives. Ken shouted after them, "Don't let the river water touch you. It's death water, yin water." By morning, the river had mysteriously receded. On the exposed bank lay 3 skeletons, still bound with ropes around their necks. Each skull bore iron nails spelling out the same words, asterisk, sin against heaven, asterisk. When Hua heard, her face drained of color. She remembered her husband's words before he died. There are some buried who cannot close their eyes. They'll come back to seek justice. But Lan had changed too. Since the well ceremony, she spent her days by the window, staring toward the riverbank, whispering, "Dad says, he's not home yet, he's still underwater." That night, the fog thickened. The river lay still and flat, the moon veiled behind a black mist. Ken set up an altar by the shore, planting a large candle in the sand and chanting a spell to calm the waters. He warned, "Tonight, the water spirits will rise. If you hear your name called, do not answer. Once you respond, it will drag you down." Everyone sat in tense silence. Even the crickets stopped singing. Only the soft ripples sounded, plop, plop, like footsteps beneath the surface. Then, a voice came, distant but clear. "Hua, come down here with me." Hua froze. That voice, it was her husband's. "Hung, is that you?" "No," Ken barked, throwing a talisman into the river. "Don't listen. Hung's soul is no longer his, the demon's taken him." But it was too late. From the water, a man's shape began to rise, half his body emerging from the river. His skin was pale, his eyes pure white, and in his hand gleamed a rusted hammer. "It's cold. Hua, come to me." Lan burst into tears. "Daddy." The moment she called out, the water churned violently. A black whirlpool opened, sucking everything toward it. Ken quickly pulled from his robe the same asterisk iron lock asterisk once used to seal the well, and hurled it into the river. With a asterisk clang, the water went still. Hung's body dissolved into mist. leaving only a fragment of his rusted hammer floating on the surface. Ken panted heavily. It's done, but not over. The demon wasn't inside Hung. It's looking for a new host. Before he could finish, Lan collapsed to the ground. Her eyes rolled wide, and she laughed, voice deep and coarse. Not her own. It's already chosen, Master. Wind tore through the night. The candle flame vanished. And from the river came a chorus of laughter, hundreds of voices rising together from beneath the dark water. Since the night the river was sealed, Lan ran a high fever for 3 days. Each time she woke, she screamed and spoke words no one could understand. The door's not closed, it's still out there. Daddy is calling. Hua sat beside her, wiping tears and feeding her soup with trembling hands. Shaman Ken sat nearby, watching Lan with a heavy look. He said, "This girl, she's opened her eyes to the other side." The family fell silent. He explained in a grave voice. Whoever sees the realm of the dead means their yang energy is weak. Once the yin flows in, the child will no longer be wholly human. Hua fell to her knees. Please save my child, Master. I already lost my husband. I can't lose my child too. Ken glanced out the window. Outside, the moon hid behind black clouds. A cold gust blew in and snuffed the oil lamp. Lan opened her eyes. Her pupils were wide. Inside the dark iris a gray, smoky ring hovered. She spoke softly, her voice warped. I see Father, he's standing behind you. Master. The room turned bone cold. Ken immediately grabbed a brass bell and rang it hard 3 times. The bell's peal stretched and echoed through the air. The shadow behind him dissipated like smoke. But Lan laughed, a hoarse, rasping sound. You only chased away part of it, it's already inside my eyes. That night Hua dared not sleep. Outside, the black cat kept mewing, staring at Lan's room. Suddenly, a steady thud, 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 came from inside, like a hammer striking the floor. Hua trembled as she opened the door. Lan sat in the middle of the room, clutching her father's rusty hammer. She was pounding the tiles in rhythm, eyes glazed, staring into empty air. Father said, strike 3 times and the door opens. Lan, put the hammer down, stop it, Hua shouted. It's too late, the door's open. Mother, Lan replied. A gust slammed through, the oil lamp flicked out. Behind Lan a tall figure rose, hung. His body was pitch black, patches of flaking skin, eyes pure white. Hua, why won't you let me into the house, he rumbled. Hua backed away, screaming, you're not my husband, go away, demon. The hung shadow roared, the house shook and the thatch fluttered. Ken burst in from outside, a bundle of burning incense in hand, shouting, possession, back off. Flames flared. Lan collapsed, eyes rolled wide. The black shape withdrew from her body, belching thick black smoke, then dissolved into the wall. The next morning Lan woke weak but clearer. She looked at her mother and, voice trembling, said, I saw, in my dream, someone else, not Father. It said its name is the Eyeless One. Ken went quiet, brow furrowed. The Eyeless One, he murmured. If that's truly it, the village faces a great calamity. He took from his pocket an old slip of paper filled with Chinese characters. 10 years ago I heard of such a spirit. It has no eyes, yet it sees through the eyes of those it possesses. It stops only when it finds someone to take their place. Hoa's knees went weak. Take their place? You mean, someone must die in their stead? Ken said nothing, staring out toward the distant fields where dust rolled in the wind. It has already chosen, and I fear, it chose the smallest child in the house. 3 days after Lan awoke, the rain began to fall. The sky turned pitch black, thunder roared, and lightning split the heavens like a silver blade. The villagers shut their doors tight and burned incense, murmuring prayers to ward off evil. Yet beneath the storm's roar, another sound emerged. Cop, cop, cop? Dry, rhythmic, echoing from the graveyard behind the pagoda. At first, they thought it was branches falling. But the sound came again and again, 3 knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. Like the clang of a hammer, or the desperate thud of someone knocking from inside a coffin. By evening, old Kang, the gravekeeper, stumbled into the village. Pale as chalk. "The coffin of Hung," he gasped. "It's open." A crowd followed him into the cemetery. Rain slashed sideways. Wind screamed through the trees. The coffin lid was torn halfway off. Inside, no corpse, only wet soil, marked by 2 handprints clawing from within. Shaman Ken knelt, placed a talisman on the dirt. It hissed, igniting in blue flame. His voice trembled. "It's too late, it's escaped." That night, Lan could not sleep. She heard cop, 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 faint, from the porch. Her mother had locked all the doors. Yet her window creaked open on its own. Cold wind rushed in, carrying the smell of damp earth and rusted iron. "Lan oi?" She turned. A tall, gaunt shadow stood against the wall, arms so long they hung past the knees. Face smooth and eyeless, only 2 hollow pits of darkness. "Where are your father's eyes?" Lan backed away, trembling. "Go away, I don't know who you are. Give me your eyes, and I'll give your father back." She screamed. Her mother burst in and grabbed her. The window slammed shut. The shadow vanished, leaving 2 deep claw marks gouged into the wood. That same night, Shaman Ken arrived. He poured ashen rice in a circle around the house, planted 9 candles at equal distance, chanting under the storm. The eyeless demon cannot be banished by simple charms. He warned, "We need its vessel." Mrs. Wah cried out, "Its vessel? What is that?" "The eye it once lost, it's still somewhere inside Hung's corpse." The wind howled, the flames wavered. Suddenly, Lan laughed softly from the other room. "Father, brought his eyes home?" Ken rushed in, her pupils had turned milky white. "No, it's entering her again," he shouted. He sliced her fingertip, letting a drop of blood fall onto a talisman. It glowed, smoke curling thick around them. From Lan's throat burst a black mist that twisted into a human face, still eyeless. "I'm not done yet," it hissed like boiling steam. "When the crescent moon rises, I'll have new eyes." The smoke vanished. Lan collapsed. Outside, thunder crashed and rain tore through the thatched roof. At dawn, by the riverbank, the villagers found a black stone eye floating on the surface, spinning slowly. Anyone who looked into it saw their own reflection, but without eyes. That night, the crescent moon hung like a thin claw above the river. Wind swept across the fields, carrying whispers like prayers. No one in Buizhe slept. Every man, woman, and child shared the same dream. They stood in their yards, facing a man with no eyes. And in his hands, he held their eyes. When morning came, everyone woke with pounding heads, temples throbbing. Some had faint red marks on their eyelids, as if someone had touched them in their sleep. Ken sat under the eaves, face grave. He told Wah, "The underworld gate is open. The village's life force is fading. If we don't seal it soon, everyone here will go blind." "What do you mean, Thay?" she asked, trembling. "The eyeless demon seeks the person with the strongest life vision to take as its host." Lan's eyes have already been marked. Inside, Lan sat silently before a blank wall, drawing circles of charcoal. Each circle had a dot in the center, like an eye staring back. "Father said," she whispered, "the living eyes see light, the dead eyes see souls." "Lan, stop drawing. It's frightening," her mother begged. "It's okay, Mother. Once there are 9 eyes, Father will come home." That night, the wind rose again. Dogs howled across the village. From Hung's grave, a dim blue light flickered, like fireflies forming the shape of a man. Ken, carrying a lantern and 2 villagers, approached the grave. The grass flattened, the soil oozed wet. Something glittered among the mud, another black stone eye, identical to the one found in the river. He pressed a talisman down. but the stone vibrated violently. A whisper brushed his ear. The second eye has opened. The lantern went out. When light returned, the stone was gone, leaving a black handprint in the soil. At that same moment, back at the house, Lan awoke. She heard cop, cop, cop on her wall, 3 knocks. Then silence. She looked, no one. But the 9 charcoal eyes she'd drawn earlier were now open. From each one oozed thick, black tar. She staggered back, horrified. "Who's there?" A gentle voice murmured behind her ear. "It's me, Father, let me borrow your eyes for a while." Lan spun around, no one. Only her shadow on the wall, but the shadow now had 3 eyes. At sunrise, Shaman Ken arrived, pale and exhausted. He whispered to Mrs. Hua, "My power's nearly gone. The demon grows stronger, because someone in the village is feeding it." "Feeding it? What do you mean?" "Someone has hidden a dark charm at home, praying for fortune. But unknowingly nurturing the spirit. We must find them before the full moon, or the whole village will be blind." Lan sat nearby, her voice low, distant. "Don't bother looking, Master," she said, lifting her head slowly. "It's right here." She pointed to her forehead. There, beneath her skin, a faint black mark had appeared. The shape of an eye, beginning to open. The next morning, Shaman Ken summoned everyone to the village hall. His voice was deep, weary, yet heavy with dread. "Greater than, someone in this village is feeding the demon. Whoever keeps strange charms, statues, or objects of unknown origin, bring them out. Now, asterisk." The crowd stirred uneasily. Whispers rippled like wind through dry leaves. Some villagers darted suspicious glances, others bowed their heads, trembling. Ken walked slowly among them, eyes sharp. He stopped before the house of Luke once Hung's apprentice at the forge. The door was shut tight. From inside came the unmistakable sound. Kang, 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 the hammering of metal. Ken shouted, "Luke, open the door." No reply, only the rhythmic pounding grew faster, harder. He kicked the door open. The forge inside still burned, its coals blazing red though no fire had been lit. On the anvil lay a glowing block of iron, being struck again and again. By no visible hand. The hammer moved on its own, rising and falling, sparks leaping with each blow. Ken hurled a talisman into the fire. The flames shot up blue-green. And from within the forge, half-formed in smoke, a blackened face emerged, eyeless, its mouth stretching into a wide grin. "Greater than, Ken, long time no see." Ken staggered back, voice shaking. "Luke, is that you?" The creature's laugh was wet, guttural. "Yes, I raised it. It gave me wealth, strength, and the soul of Hung, so I could make him pay his debt. He owes me, and now he'll pay in full." Ken's eyes widened in horror. "You fool, don't you know demons feed only on life itself?" "Oh, I know," Luke rasped, stepping out from the shadows. "But I'm not afraid. It promised to take only my eyes." He lifted his face into the light. His eye sockets were empty, 2 black, bleeding holes. Yet he smiled, horribly serene. "I see more clearly now than ever, Master. I see Hung and his daughter sitting outside, waiting their turn." The forge roared to life. A column of smoke twisted into a humanoid shape, tall, eyeless, grinning. Ken stumbled back toward the doorway, clutching his charms. "The eyeless demon, by the seal of Yang, I summon and bind you." He cast sacred ash into the fire. A piercing hiss tore through the air, the forge exploded, scattering embers and soot. When the smoke cleared, Luke lay on the floor, burnt black, mouth frozen in a faint smile. On the ground beside him, drawn in blood, was a symbol, 3 eyes interlocked. That night, Ken went to Hoa's house. His face was pale, voice hoarse as if something had been taken from him. "Greater than, The demon's vessel is destroyed, but its soul remains. It's already found another host. From the corner of the room, Lan * looked up slowly. Her lips curved into a thin smile. Greater than, you're wrong. Master, it's not looking for anyone. It's already here. A chill ran down Can's spine. He looked into her eyes and saw, reflected in their depths, the grinning face of * the eyeless demon. Greater than, they raise demons, she whispered, voice shifting, deep and coarse. Greater than, but I was born from one. Lan laughed, low and broken. The oil lamp went out. Darkness swallowed the house. Can's shout echoed through the black. Greater than, hold her. Don't let her leave the village. But when the light flared again, Lan was gone. Only a rusted hammer lay on the floor beside * 2 small muddy footprints. At dawn, the villagers followed those footprints down to the riverbank. They ended abruptly at the water's edge. And there, beneath the pale morning moon, the reflection of a girl could be seen walking * on the river's surface. Holding in her hands * 2 black eyes, gleaming like coal. Rain began to fall over Bui Zay village by late afternoon. The sky turned the color of ash. Thunder rolled endlessly, and the Bui River swelled with muddy waves. The elders whispered that whenever a soul refused to move on, the river would rise in anger like this. That night, Mrs. Wah heard someone calling her name outside. The voice was thin and sharp, slicing through the sound of rain, cold as the wind that seeped through the cracks of the door. Mother, open the door for me, it's so cold. Her heart clenched. Her hands trembled as she gripped the blanket tighter. She was alone now. Can had warned her again and again, never open the door when you hear Lan's voice. My child, if it's truly you, then come through the Buddha's gate. She whispered a prayer, voice shaking, but the voice outside persisted. Mother, it hurts. Why did you leave me to die in the river? Each word struck like a knife to her chest. She rose, weak-kneed, and stepped toward the door, her fingers quivering on the wooden latch. Outside, she heard the patter of small feet on the wet ground, splash, splash. Then a soft giggle that trailed off into a hiss. I'm right here, Mother. The door creaked open. Lan stood in the doorway, drenched from head to toe, hair plastered with mud, skin pale as a dead fish. Her eyes were completely black, no whites, no pupils. Mrs. Wah stumbled backward, falling to the floor, screaming, Lan, go away, don't come near me. Lan lowered her head, taking slow, dripping steps forward. I came back to take you to Father. The house groaned. Wind howled through the cracks, snuffing out the oil lamp. In the darkness, there was only the sound of a child's laughter, mingled with the steady trickle of water circling around her. At that same moment, Can and several villagers arrived. From afar, they saw pale blue light leaking from Hoa's house. Inside, the sounds of chanting, crying, and laughter tangled together. Can shouted, Hold the door, don't let anyone out. He drew charms in the air, scattering consecrated ash around the house. But a violent gust swept through, tearing off the thatched roof and scattering the ash into the storm. Lightning flashed, and in that instant, they saw Lan clutching her mother tight as both sank slowly into the ground, as if dragged by unseen hands from beneath the floor. Can chanted frantically and drove his talisman nails into the soil. The earth shuddered, then split open. From the fissure burst a black plume of smoke, twisting into the shape of a giant figure, with 3 overlapping eyes burning on its face. No one escapes, blood debt must be repaid in blood. The demon's voice thundered, drowning out the storm. Can hurled his final charm into the smoke. Golden fire erupted, engulfing the entire house. A scream, half human, half beast, echoed into the night, then silence. When the rain finally ceased, the villagers found only the charred remains of Hoa's home. No bodies, just an old blacksmith's hammer lying in the ashes. Its wooden handle scorched, its iron head still glowing faintly red, as if freshly forged. Ken knelt among the ruins, exhausted. The corpse demon, sealed. For now, he murmured, but if anyone dares call it again, with blood, it will return. Far off, the Bowie River still raged under the silver moonlight. And some swore that on quiet nights, they could see a little girl standing in the middle of the water. Hair hanging loose, holding a hammer, eyes black as ink, smiling as she softly called each villager by name. 3 years had passed since the tragedy at Bowie's village. On the surface, everything seemed calm again, but those who still lived there knew the truth. The nights were never truly quiet. The old forge of Hung, once possessed by a demon, had been rebuilt. The new blacksmith was a thin young man named Lamb, who spoke with a strange accent. He claimed to be Asterisk, an old apprentice of Master Hung. On his first day, Lamb lit incense and knelt before the scorched earth where the old forge once stood. He whispered, "I've come to return the fire to you. Master, please guide me to finish what you began." The villagers only shook their heads. Ever since Lamb reopened the forge, eerie blue flames flickered from inside every night, even when the doors were shut tight. And the hammering, slow, steady, echoed like the heartbeat of the dead. One evening, a young cowherd named Tuan crept up to peek through a crack in the wall. Inside, he saw only Lamb at the anvil, yet every time Lamb raised his hammer, a asterisk second hand, black as soot, rose with it and struck down. The fire blazed red, molten iron hissed, and from the glowing metal, the faint shape of a asterisk human face began to appear. Tuan gasped and stumbled backward. Lamb turned sharply, his eyes glowed like burning coal. "Who's there?" The boy bolted into the darkness. By morning, the villagers found him collapsed by the riverbank, his hair turned completely white, his lips trembling. "The forge, someone, called me in." The story spread fast. Ken, the old shaman who had once exorcised the corpse demon, came despite his age. Leaning on his cane, he stared at the new forge and sighed. "That fire is not of this world." He stepped inside. On the wall hung one of his old talismans, half burned, barely clinging to the bamboo post. Below it, Lamb was forging something strange, a long steel spike, black as midnight, with an eye engraved at its tip. "What are you making?" Ken asked. Lamb looked up, a faint smirk on his lips. "To seal the mouth of hell, Master, but to do that, I need the soul of the one who opened it." Ken's eyes widened. "You mean Hung's soul?" Lamb shook his head slowly. "No, his daughter's." The air turned cold as ice. The black spike trembled on the anvil. From within it came a faint voice, weak, pleading. "Master, help me." Ken's hands shook, his eyes wet. "Lan, she hasn't moved on, and you mean to use her soul?" Lamb's tone hardened. "If I don't seal it, the whole village will die. One soul to save 100, isn't that fair?" Outside, the wind roared, the tin roof rattled, the flames leapt high, casting a red glow over Lamb's face, and on his neck was a black hand-shaped scar, as if burned there by a demon's touch. Ken shouted, "You've been possessed. Lamb, leave this place at once." Lamb's eyes burned. "No, it promised I could see my mother again, if I finish this spike." His hand moved on its own, lifting the hammer. From the shadows came a deep, guttural voice. "Strike. One more blow, the old man's blood will close the gate." Ken staggered back, raising a charm, but the wind howled through the forge like a beast. The fire wrapped itself around Lamb's body. And then, the demon returned. The eyeless one, its 3-layered eyes burned crimson, grinning from the flames. "Fire and blood, forge and soul, I am reborn." The forge exploded. Ashes and sparks rained across the night sky. From miles away, villagers saw a blue column of fire rising to the clouds, followed by one final echo of a hammer striking metal. Clang. Then silence. At dawn, the forge was nothing but gray ash. In the center stood a single black steel spike, driven deep into the earth, still smoldering faintly. No one ever found Lam, or Shaman Can. But from that day on, the hammering stopped, and the Bui River grew calm again. At night, though, travelers passing the old forge swore they saw faint flickers of fire within the ruins. And if you listen closely, beneath the whisper of the wind, you might still hear a voice murmur softly, "Don't light the fire again, there are still people in the ashes." After the forge explosion, the people of Bui Zhe warned one another, "Don't go near that place again." But as always, the more adults forbade it, the more curious the children became. One scorching afternoon, little T, the son of Mrs. Man, a market vendor, wandered out to the old burnt lot to play. In the ashes, he saw something glinting, a steel spike. At its tip was an engraving of 3 overlapping eyes. "Cool, I'll take it home, it'll be my lucky charm." He slipped the spike into his pocket and ran home, proud of his find. That evening, T developed a fever. His mother thought it was just heat stroke. But by midnight, the boy sat upright in bed, eyes wide open, whispering in a raspy voice, "Close the gate?" Mrs. Man panicked and called for neighbors. The boy clutched her wrist tightly. His voice cracked and unnatural. The master said, "The spike must be finished." His whole body trembled violently. Black marks spread across his skin like burn scars. The oil lamp flickered out. Smoke began to rise from the pocket of his shirt. Mrs. Man reached in and pulled out the spike. It was glowing red hot, as if fresh from a forge. The wind howled. From the alley outside came the sound of heavy, dragging footsteps. A tall shadow approached slowly, wild hair, hammer in hand. With each step, the ground seemed to split beneath his feet. Villagers rushed to the house. An old man gasped, "It's Hung, he's come back." But no, that thing wasn't human. Its face was half flesh, half ash, eyes burning like coals, mouth split from cheek to cheek. "I'm not done yet, the spike must be sealed with the blood of the blacksmith." The voice was both Hung's and something deeper, a demonic growl from the abyss. Mrs. Man screamed, holding her son tight, "Give my child back." The creature looked at her and grinned. "He's chosen, he carries my fire now." The house began to shake. Flames erupted from the spike, twisting into a red column of smoke that writhed like a serpent. Inside the fire, the image of Lan appeared, her hair dripping wet, her voice trembling. "Father, don't let it take me." Hung, or the demon within him, faltered. The 3 eyes on his forehead flared, then flickered. Lan stepped closer, tears streaming down her pale face. "Father, come home, stop forging, it's so cold down here." The wind shrieked. The spike in Hung's hand quivered, its fire dying out. He whispered hoarsely, "Lan, my daughter." At that moment, Ken appeared from the shadows, clutching his final ash talisman. "Now, the demon's weak, chant." He hurled the charm onto the glowing spike. A blinding flash erupted. Hung let out a scream so deep it tore through the storm itself. Ashes, fire, and wind spun wildly into a raging vortex. Lan ran to him, embracing her father one last time. "Father, I forgive you." A deafening explosion followed. When the dust settled, there were only 2 small piles of ashes lying side by side. Ken knelt, eyes closed, chanting softly as a cool breeze swept through the ruins, carrying with it the faint laughter of a child before fading away. The villagers built a small shrine by the river, buried the steel spike beneath it, and sealed it with 7 layers of charms. From that day on, no one ever heard the sound of a hammer again, and no one dared to light a forge in the village. But some say that on the full moon of the 7th lunar month, if you walk past the Bui River, you'll see blue fire shimmering beneath the water, and hear a soft voice calling, "Don't forge again, the ashes aren't cold yet." A week after the black steel spike was buried in the small riverside shrine, the people of Bui Zhe finally began to breathe easy. But Shaman Can, now frail and stooped with age, could not rest. One misty evening, he returned to the shrine alone, holding a bundle of talismans, murmuring sacred verses under his breath. As he approached, he noticed a thin crack snaking across the ground, jagged, like teeth. The ashes within the shrine began to quiver and tremble. Then, from the crack, a blackened hand slowly reached out, its fingernails long, its joints creaking with a dry, clicking sound. No, it cannot be. Kan's hands shook as he flung the charms around him, shouting, "You have no vessel left. The ashes are gone, be gone, spirit." But the hand pulled forward a small figure, Lan. Her eyes were still black, yet faint light flickered within them, like dawn behind a storm. She looked at him and spoke softly. "Master, I'm home now. My father has found peace." A cool breeze swept through the shrine. The ashes of the spike rose into the air, swirling around Lan like mist. From within that wind came a faint chuckle, Hung's voice, before fading completely. Villagers, hearing the sudden rush of wind, hurried toward the shrine. They found Lan standing there, hands pressed together, eyes closed, her hair damp from the rain. Ken stepped forward, gently taking her hand. "You're safe now, the ashes have sealed the demon for good." Lan nodded, her voice calm and warm. "Father's gone now, but I can finally feel peace." The villagers knelt, gazing at the still waters of the Bui River. No hammering, no shadows, no cries in the night. Just the quiet after 3 long years of haunting storms. That night, Shaman Ken wrote everything down, every word, every sign, and placed the steel spike back into the shrine's chamber. He sealed it again with 7 layers of charms, burying it 1 meter deeper than before. Then he said, "If anyone grows curious, let the ashes sleep. The corpse demon is gone, this time. For real, **. Lan returned home with her mother. Together, they sat by a small fire, its orange glow warming their tired faces. No more fear, no more ghosts. Only the fragile quiet of life returning, and the memory that drifted away like smoke. The villagers would later say that from then on, the Bui River flowed calmly once more. No one dared rebuild a forge in that village again. And on nights when the crescent moon rose, a faint blue shimmer could still be seen glinting beneath the ashes, a silent reminder. Greater than, do not rekindle the fire. Greater than, for even ashes that seem cold may still hold a soul. The tale of Bui Zay ends here. The villagers moved on, life resumed, yet beneath the moonlight and whispering wind, a trace of darkness still lingers. Thank you for listening to this story on the channel *bong toi trong dem ***. Be cautious if you ever cross the Bui River on a crescent moon night, for somewhere beneath the water, the ashes still sleep, ***. This story is a work of fiction, created purely for entertainment within the horror genre. It is not intended to promote superstition or any dangerous behavior described within. Any resemblance to real people, places, or events is purely coincidental. Thank you for supporting and accompanying ***bong toi trong dem ***.